So that was a separate project, basically where we focused on APOE4 carriers. As I mentioned before, we were very interested in our lab. We're very interested in the observed cardiovascular factors, but also in the genetic factors, right? And even though not cardiovascular, APOE4 carriers are known to be at risk, right? The science has shown over and over again that they're a high risk group for many diseases that happen when you are older, right? One of these, of course, being dementia. They're the most important genetic risk factor for dementia in the long run, but also for example, stroke, more so a hemorrhagic stroke, but there has been evidence on ischemic stroke as well. So we wanted to understand if optimizing the life essential 8, basically improving one's cardiovascular health, again, from a preventive, point of view, would decrease more, right? Would help more, would enhance more the protective benefits among APOE carriers than APOE non-carriers. And for this, we also designed a prospective cohort study within the UK Biobank. We did not look into all of us for this one. And we found that in this case, because we were focusing on cardio and cerebrovascular health more than brain health, we focused on a different composite endpoint. In this case, we looked at a composite endpoint that basically encompassed the most important diseases for cardiovascular health, which are myocardial infarction, stroke, and transient ischemic attacks, which we englobed in a composite. And then we compared APOE4 carriers versus non-carriers with, of course, our exposure, which was the life essential 8 score. And our results showed that indeed, among APOE4 carriers, even though their unadjusted risk was always higher than APOE4 non-carriers because they have that genetic risk that's adding up to them, when they adhere to more optimal life essential 8 lifestyles and more optimal cardiovascular health lifestyles, the risk of this composite is even lower than among non-carriers. So this basically means that the life essential 8, we can say cardiovascular health, right? Trying to prevent bad outcomes, focusing on one's cardiovascular health is enhanced, works better when you're an APOE4 carrier. So this is of great news, of course, because nowadays with direct-to-consumer genotyping companies, this information is going everywhere. I don't know if you've done it. I've done it. I know my status. So this is something that happens, and more people know their status, but now they can actually do something about it, right? They can actually know that, okay, even though they may be positive, they can try to reduce even more their risk. So at the moment, we are trying to understand how we're delving more and more into the genetics. We're trying to understand how, for example, we're focusing more on APOE4 carriers. We want to understand them, not usually, I think, we have been very interested in the genotype and into how basically the genomics and the proteomics of the APOE gene and protein affect them mechanistically, dementia and all of the other endpoints that we've been talking about. But we're trying to focus them more into these APOE4 carriers in an epidemiologic point of view, in a population point of view. So looking at them more as a high-risk population that we don't yet know so much about in terms of preventive medicine, right? To try to understand if certain treatments are better for them, if certain medications are worse or better for them, if certain lifestyles are worse or better for them. So we're trying to understand these relationships among APOE4 carriers, of course, when comparing them to non-carriers. And I think this is of great importance because one might not think about it, but actually APOE4 carriers, if one considers 2 or 1 allele, right? So all of them is a little bit more than a quarter of the population in most studies. So it's a pretty big number if one thinks about it. So yeah, that's our main focus right now, and also looking into functional outcomes among older adults.